Good morning, everyone. This is Mark Raymakers, Insurance Agency Marketing Services, along with John Enting. I want to thank you all for joining us here this morning. We're going to talk about the National Guardian Life Funeral Trust. And you know, John Enting, who's going to be our main presenter this morning, brought this product to us here a few years ago, and ever since we've seen nothing but an uphill tick on the production of this product. So obviously this is a plan that is really, I would say, anybody's a prospect for, and John will certainly tell us about that. He just got back from their trip. I'm not going to take his thunder away here, so I'll just let you know he knows what he's talking about. He is one of our top producers, and he's also a top producer with National Guardian Life. So John, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day, your production schedule, to help us this morning with this webinar.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to record this for you all so that once we're done, we'll shoot it over to you. You can review it. And I'll tell you here real quick that if you get appointed, if you're appointed with us now already, but if you get appointed with us here with National Guardian Life, we've got a special treat coming up here in a couple of weeks where John is going to go through his presentation and how he sells so much of this product. So you might want to make a mental note of that. We'll give you an opportunity to get appointed here. We will have the question box open, so if you have any questions, you can certainly go ahead and type those in, and we'll address those as we go. I do have a couple of intro slides I'm going to go through with you real quick here, and a couple of polls. Our first one this morning is on our 2-day training academy. This is scheduled for, I believe it is the 3rd week of July. And I'm going to go ahead and put this poll out here real quick, make sure it's up and running. It is. Okay. So here's what we've got going on. We like to say it's a 2.5 days. So basically you're going to be out of the office for 3 days. Now, Insurance Agency Marketing Services will pay for your airfare. We pay for your meals. We pay for your lodging. John is one of the presenters here on this particular training event. But what we do is we bring presenters in from across the country for this. We fly you out on a Wednesday. We get together Wednesday evening. We have a few short presentations along with some heavy hors d'oeuvres. We do have a little cocktail hour as well. We do a full day of training on Thursday. So again, we cover all the meals on Thursday. We do a half-a-day training on Friday. And so we cover all those expenses for you. And with that said, there's just a number of great opportunities for you to learn more about how to increase your annuity business, how to do some cross-selling over into the life side of the business, and vice versa. So if you're looking to grow either side of your business, this is for you. This is for agents that are full-time in the business. This is not for somebody who's just getting their feet wet. This is an opportunity for you to truly meet other top producers and, you know, do a lot of, I guess, it's opportunities for you to sit and visit with them, and not only that, but just learn how some of our top producers have reached, you know, the pinnacle of their career, where they are writing so much business that they're not only qualifying for our trip, but 3 or 4 trips with other companies that we do business with as well. So if you're interested in at least knowing more about this training event, mark yes. What we'll do is we will email you the agenda. We generally have 3 to 4 of these a year. We've already completed one. As I mentioned, we've got one coming up here in July. If this one doesn't work for you, that's okay. There's probably going to be 2 other ones that'll be coming up yet this year. So by marking yes, at least you will get an invitation to any of the events that come up. You'll also get an agenda so you know what we cover. But again, when you look at it, this is free training. And if you're not getting free training with your current IMO, this is a great opportunity for you to take advantage of that particular training that we've got coming up here. And you'll notice, obviously, we're real big on training because we do have webinars every day of the week, so Monday through Friday. And then many times you'll see we've got 2 scheduled for the same day. So tremendous response here on the training, the Life Annuity Academy. Certainly appreciate that. I'm going to go ahead and close the poll here in just a second. There's still a lot of you that are voting in. Almost 90% of you on here this morning have voted. So obviously there's a great interest in the training. And let me tell you something. We've been doing this for a long time. I've been with the company for 7 years, and we've been doing these training events, and I have not once, after all the events we've had, heard anybody say it was not a great use of their time. And probably the biggest thing is there's so much information that it's a matter of deciding what do I do first when I get back in my office. So if that tells you what a great training event it is, this is something you certainly want to attend. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll out. We're going to move along. I know your time is very valuable. John is a producer as well, and I know we need to get him loose here so we can get back to doing what he does best. We have our new producer bonus up here, and I'll tell you real quick how this works. Now, this applies for all business that you write with us, but let's just say for here this morning, the 100,000, 300, 500 is based dollar for dollar on the NGL premium. It's also the same as single premium life and annuities. So let's say you get $100,000. You want to redeem your bonus. You can get $750 cash bonus along with your commission, of course, or a 2-year subscription to the website newsletter service. Now, this is something that if you don't have set up now, you can call and ask for Matt Neal. He'll tell you how you can purchase a program if you don't have one already. So keep that in mind. Then if you choose not to take advantage of either one of those two, there's the free iPad as well. And I'll tell you, a lot of companies are going towards the iPad application. So if you don't have one of those, this is a great opportunity for you to make sure that you can write those apps on the iPad without any mistakes and without missing any forms. The second level is the 300,000 level. You got the full Social Security program and a 3,000-piece postcard mailing. You can certainly buy into that program. This is a great way to get in front of more seniors. A lot of our top producers are using this program, and so keep that in mind. That's one option. Or there's the $2,000 matching marketing money to promote your business, or a gift card, whichever one of those that you choose. Maybe you want to wait till you get to the 500,000 level. At this level, you can take advantage of the 5,000-piece mailing and seminar coaching with Matt Gill, or 4,000-piece mailing and seminar coaching with Dave Pimper. Both of these gentlemen write a tremendous amount of business with us. They are top producers. I've seen their program. They will actually be there to present at our upcoming event in July. So this is a good chance to see how their seminar program works. And of course, if you don't earn it, you can certainly buy into it. If you opt not to take advantage of either one of those two, then there's the Ritz-Carlton Travel Rewards, where you can make your own personal getaway. Now, some of the things that we do here for you, if you're not taking advantage of any of these now, or maybe you don't have access to such programs, Matt Neal and his team can make any one of these available to you. You can see, obviously, based on production, you can get there. And so all the way from basic marketing, to a branding, if you don't have any kind of brand now, we certainly help with that, all the way to television advertisements. So we can help you with those programs. Again, if you're interested, just ask for Matt Neal in our office, and he can go through that with you. We do have our top producers escape, and John has been on every one of these, I think, since he's been appointed with us. And you know what? These are just a great opportunity for you to get to know other producers, but really it's an opportunity for us to get to know you as well as to reward you for your hard work. And you can see the trip dates here are August 3rd through the 7th. We still have this running until June 30th, so there's still time to qualify. I have seen agents qualify in a 2-month period, so don't count yourself out. Anything that you write with us counts, from annuity premium all the way to long-term care. You'll see right here in the qualify with any combination. So you can certainly do it, and we'd love to see you there. This is at the Fairmont Empress in Victoria, British Columbia. Okay, John, I'm done with my part. If you're ready to roll here, let's dive in, huh?
Yes, let's do it, Mark. Well, good morning to everybody, and thank you for taking your valuable time to listen to us talk about this National Guardian Life product. I'm fighting kind of a head cold this morning, so just bear with me. I'll try to keep my coughing to a minimum. But what we're here to talk to you about today is the NGL Funeral Trust funding, and it is exactly what it says on there, and it's an unlimited opportunity for both new and existing clients. Tell you a little bit about myself. I am an annuity producer by nature. We also do life insurance and long-term care. We run a financial services business, and we felt that this was something that we weren't implementing enough with our clients, so we really started working with our clients on it, and it's been very successful, and I'd just like to share with you guys out there how we've done it, so maybe you can implement it into your business and help you as well. So what we're going to cover today is we're going to talk about the opportunity that exists with this product. This was brought to me about 10 years ago by a gentleman who actually mentored me in this business. And at first, I didn't understand it, but the more I understood it and learned about it, we found it was a perfect fit for the people that we work with. So we'll talk about that opportunity. We'll talk about the trusts that are used to protect this money within the NGL portfolio. We'll talk about the product that we use to fund it. to fund the particular trust that you use. We'll give you some presentation ideas and tools, and then we'll talk about National Guardian Life themselves. First of all, I want to talk to you a little bit about the opportunity. This is a wide open market out there for this particular program. And again, you know, an opportunity is just an opportunity unless you learn about it and you act on it. So we'll try to get you motivated in that direction. And then, like Mark said, I do some private training sessions based on real life experiences. I am out in the field every day. I'm not a home office guy, so I can relate to what you're doing every day to build your business, and hopefully I can help you put another arrow in your quiver as you're out there working with clients. But as we all know, anytime we're planning with a client, you know, anything that's significant in our life is going to require planning, and rarely does it happen on its own. I mean, that's what we're in the business of doing, is actually, you know, putting a rock in people's shoes and then pushing them along to solve a particular problem. So nothing different here. We're going to consider the options with the clients. We're going to put a plan in place, and then we'll show them how to save for that particular plan. Now, funeral and final expenses aren't any different when you talk about planning. Somebody's going to need to determine the services and pay the bill. And the question truly is who and when. I'll give you a personal story of mine. Either the deceased can get their affairs in order prior to passing away, or if not, then it's left to the survivors afterwards. My dad passed away on January 21st of 2011. Just a quick backstory, my parents divorced when I was about 2 years old. I wasn't super close with my father. But when he passed away, I found myself sitting in a funeral director's room, and I was getting asked questions like, what was your dad's mother's maiden name? What was his final rank in the military? You know, what was his favorite flower, his favorite hymn? These are all things that I didn't have the answers to. And at that point, it truly made me realize the value of what we do for our clients, because we're trying to keep them out of that particular situation. And so NGL offers choices for that. There's the plan and pay for the funeral. That's called the pre-need side. That's when you walk into a funeral home, you pick out your casket, you know, all the things that people really don't want to go do, and then they purchase that through the funeral home. And then NGL has the other side, which is the final expense side, and that's to get everything in order to pay for the anticipated expenses at some point in the future. And that's the side of National Guardian Life that we're working on. So how much does a funeral cost? You know, today's funerals do cost more than you might think. Actually, I was just at their sales conference in Marco Island last week, which, by the way, they do a phenomenal job with their sales conference. But I got to talk to a lot of the producers that do this, and what was ironic is about 80% of the producers that were there were all on the funeral home side of things. So there was only about 20% of us that were on this side of the fence, which to me, again, brings up that word opportunity. But they told me that they're seeing the average cost now of funerals up in the $12,000 to $15,000 range. So what's the opportunity for you? The opportunity for you is in a national survey, 72% of the people thought it was a good idea to pre-plan, but 64% had not taken any steps to do so. So, you know, your clients are no different. And one of the guys at the sales conference said it best. He said, you know, if you look outside on a nice, bright, sunny day, you might think, hey, I need to pre-plan my funeral, but the last thing you want to do is go down into a funeral home and start picking out caskets and plans. So this gives us an opportunity to help the people do this without going to the nursing home. And when I say your clients are no different, I'm working with the same clients you are. I'm sure the majority of the people on here are in that senior market. And that senior market's huge. Over the next 20 years, 80 million people are expected to file for Social Security benefits. So if you think about that, if you're in the senior market, that's pretty big. Mark, you can move on there for me. So by 2025, there'll be almost twice as many seniors as today. So if you're in this business for the long term, which I expect many of you are, hopefully everyone, the opportunity that's going to be out there is really going to be a huge marketplace for all of us. And then you have to consider this as well, and this is really a good talking point when you talk about the National Guardian Life. 43% of all Americans older than 65 are going to need some type of nursing home care. Now, the national average cost of long-term care is over $70,000 a year. So if you have clients that are sitting there, which many of us do, that don't have any type of protection for long-term care, this presents a big problem because it means that at some point they may have to qualify for Medicaid. Now, many people who need long-term care and have to qualify for Medicaid, as you all well know, they're going to have to start spending their assets down. And what the trust can do for us is the trust can actually protect some of that money from the Medicaid spend down. So how does it all fit together? What National Guardian Life does is they present us the opportunity to use insurance products to fund a funeral trust for our clients. So it gives them that financial protection of life insurance with the advantages of an irrevocable funeral trust. And what this allows your client to do is to put money aside for future expenses and to get that money excluded from their estate from a situation if they had to go into a long-term care facility. So the trust will hold the funds for the funeral expenses, and your client is effectively spending down their assets while taking care of something that's very important for the future. So let's talk about, excuse me, the trusts themselves. So by using the NGL Irrevocable Trust, what it does for your clients, it gives them protection from creditors on the money that they put into the trust. The benefits that pay out of the trust are income tax free, so they're going to get a growth rate on that money that's in the trust, and when it does pay out, there's no income tax due. The funds are available immediately, and I'll go over that with you here in a few minutes on how that works. The trusts are free, so National Guardian Life already has this set up for you. There's no cost to you and no cost to the client to set up and get their money put into the trust. Everyone's going to qualify for the trust assignment, so everyone will be able to put their money into that trust. The death proceeds are going to be used for their funeral expenses, and of course they're going to avoid probate costs and delays. And the last one is the funds are totally portable. And where this becomes important is if you're working with clients who are in their 60s, you know, in the next 10 years, they could very well be moving out of state. I have a lot of clients who relocate to Florida and South Carolina. And this plan is 100% portable. Unlike prepaying at the funeral home, this is something they own that they can take to any funeral home of their choice at any point down the road. So let's talk about how the trusts compare. I'll let you guys go ahead and just read this, but if you look at the bottom line there, you can see the Irrevocable Funeral Trust is giving us a yes in every category that we're looking for when we're talking about protecting dollars. So here's how the trust works, and I'll give you an example of a client we just worked with to kind of put it in perspective. We just brought on a client that we met with. We asked her how she was planning on first we asked her had she prepaid her funeral. She told us no. We asked her, well, if something would happen to you, how are you going to handle those expenses, or how is your family? And she said, well, I've got $15,000 in a CD over at the bank. My kids know that if something happens to me, that's the money they can get to immediately to use for my final expenses. So what we did is we explained to her that if she got sick and went into a nursing home, that $15,000 could be attached by Medicaid and be meant to spend down. So instead, we showed her where if we took the $15,000 and we bought an NGL policy, we could then assign the policy to the Irrevocable Funeral Trust. So we're still accomplishing her goal. The money's there. We're getting a better growth rate than we would at the bank. When she passes away, that money then will pay out within 48 hours to the funeral provider. Now, when you see this where it says excess funds are paid to the estate, if you have $15,000 in the plan and your funeral is $14,000, that $1,000 does get paid back to the estate. Typically, it can go through what they call a non-administrative probate estate to get the $1,000 back to the family. But the big picture is the reason that happens is we protected that whole amount while the client was alive in the event that she would have to need nursing home care so that she didn't have to spend her money down. So we'll talk about the two different trusts that are offered by National Guardian Life. The first one is the Funeral Expense Trust. This one you're allowed to put up to $15,000 into it. It'll vary by state. We'll have a slide coming up that'll show you your state. It gives you the ability to exclude assets in order to qualify for Medicaid and SSI. So with her, she knew this was money. She just wanted to put it aside, be done with it, and have it protected. So we put it into the funeral trust. What will happen when she passes away, the funeral trust will pay that money directly to the nursing home of her choice. Now, on the NGL Estate Planning Trust, we are allowed to put up to $100,000. Now, I'm going to just stop here a minute. The $100,000 maximum is a total of death benefit for both plans. So if you were writing someone a funeral trust for $15,000, then $85,000 is what you would be able to put into the estate planning trust. If you weren't writing the funeral trust, obviously you could put $100,000 into the estate planning trust. But what this trust does is it gives the ability to exclude the assets in order to qualify for Medicaid after a 5-year look back. So the client puts the money. Remember, these are irrevocable, so anytime you're talking to a client, we're talking about money they're absolutely not going to have to need access to during their lifetime. What will happen at that point, the funds will be used to pay the funeral expenses, and any excess funds go to a designated beneficiary. So I'll give you a quick example of that. Which at National Guardian Life, if we had the whole $100,000 in an estate planning trust, the client passed away, what would happen is that funeral home within 48 hours would get paid from National Guardian Life. So let's say that the funeral was $15,000 and there was $85,000 left that's going to a beneficiary. That beneficiary will also be paid within 48 hours, the remaining money that's in the trust. And again, because it's going to a beneficiary, obviously there's no probate and no hassle with that. Now, when do I use which trust? For the Funeral Expense Trust, it's a great crisis planning tool. I have a relationship next door with an elder law attorney. They do a lot of crisis planning. They'll call me in to write the Funeral Expense Trust for their clients. Maybe the client says, hey, very possible that I'm going to spend down my assets and be on Medicaid within 5 years. Well, then we certainly want to use the Funeral Expense Trust because it gets that money off the books day one. Or maybe like the client we just worked with, she just wants her funeral expenses only. She wants the assurance that the dollars are protected now and that she knows that money's going to go to the funeral home to take care of her expenses. Now with the estate planning trust, when we'll use that is maybe Medicaid's a non-issue now, 5 years from now, or maybe it looks like they'll never be on Medicaid. But what they do want to do is protect some money and pass it to either their children, maybe their charities at the church, the university. We've done it both ways. And this really is a good opportunity because it allows them to put up to $100,000 in that plan. So let's talk about the product that we use to fund the National Guardian Life Funeral Trust and the Estate Planning Trust. And it's called the AssetGuard. And really what the AssetGuard is, it's just a fixed rate product. when you combine it with the funeral trust option, you get an increasing death benefit, so it's paying interest, and it provides a financial protection option for the final expense planning. So it's a great tool to be able to protect dollars for down the road. Now, like I said earlier, there are individual state limits. I know we probably have people on here from all over the place. I always encourage you to check with National Guardian Life to see if anything's changed on your state limits. But if you go to the next page there, Mark, you can see what the state limits look like. I'll be speaking about Ohio because that's where I live, and we do have a $15,000 maximum that we can put into the funeral trust. So this slide here is for the funeral trust only. So again, the maximum amount it can be written for is $15,000 unless you saw on there that your state is a little bit different. Then you'll have to follow those guidelines. So a lot of times we'll have clients and agents ask us, well, what expenses can be paid for by an irrevocable funeral trust? And if you look on here, you can see it's just about everything that you would need when someone passes away. So everything from excuse me, transfer of the deceased, if they, passed away on vacation, we can certainly get them back here. But also everything else that you would expect that a funeral director and their staff would provide. So as we talk today about this product, I'm going to tell you that we focus strictly on single pay. I've never written a 3, 5, 7, or 10-year pay. We are a single pay company. So I would encourage you to try. It's a lot easier to stay on that path with the single pay. You get to pick the growth rate for your client, and this growth rate can be anywhere from 0.25% to 2.25%. And again, that's going to be reflective of commissions of what rate you give your client. I will tell you, with us, we give everybody the same rate across the board. But there's only one health question, so everybody's going to qualify for the plan. Whether if you're 0 to 99, then you can see there on the single pay, you can write it all day long, 0 to 99. There's what's called a standard issue and a guaranteed issue based on the health question that you ask. So the nice thing about the health question is there's only one health question, and if your client answers no to the health question, there'll be a standard issue, and if they answer yes, there'll be a guaranteed issue. But regardless, they're all going to qualify for the plan, so you're not running into a situation of, am I going to be able to get them the plan or not? The answer to that is absolutely yes, you will. And so what happens is, like the client we just worked with, we put $15,000 in, we gave her a 2% growth rate. That money is going to stay in there and accumulate 100% tax-free, and when she passes away, the immediate full death benefit will get paid out to the funeral home with the excess going back to her estate. Now, there are some other product features. I call this a bell and a whistle, but it's called the Grandchild rider, and basically it's a $3,000 face amount, whichever is lower. So say this lady we just wrote the application on for an extra $10 one-time fee, she could cover all her children or grandchildren 6 months old to 18 years old, but it only pays out one time. So if she had 6 grandchildren and one of them passed away and she had a $3,000 face amount policy, that would cover that grandchild for $3,000, and then the rider would terminate. And again, you can only do it with single pay, and you have to do it at the time of application. Now, if you're an annuity or a life insurance producer out there, you know in our business the paperwork now is crazy. I've been doing this for 30 years, and just the amount of paperwork we're required to do through suitability and everything can be quite tremendous. With National Guardian Life, you'll love their application, because if you don't like paperwork, this is the plan for you. It's literally 2 pieces of paper and your state replacement form. There's no suitability form. Now, I say that, and when I say that, you should always do what's suitable for your client, but there is not a suitability form that you will have to complete with this particular program. So here is the first page of the application. It's literally that simple. It's their information, their face amount, their premium. You're going to go down there where it says plan has A, B, D, C, E, F, G. You're picking their interest rate. And then you're going to ask them that health question that's there. And then after you've done that, you're going to have them sign at the bottom of the page. You're going to sign, put your agent number for NGL. The last page of the application has a place where you can leave a receipt for the client. If they give you cash, you give that to the client. And then you'll have an assignment form, and that assignment form will either be to the funeral expense trust, or if you're using the estate planning trust, there will be one for the estate planning trust, and then you'll be able to name a beneficiary for the funds. So I'm going to stop here and say something. Sometimes I get questions from people that will say, well, what if a client already went in and prepaid their funeral, but they want to use the estate planning trust to protect some money? Well, what would happen is when they passed away, you would just show proof to the funeral home that the funeral was already paid for, and then the entire amount that's in the estate planning trust would come out to the beneficiary. So if you have a client that is in a crisis situation, maybe their husband's in a nursing home and they want to get some of the money protected because they can see they're spending down their assets, you can write it on someone in a nursing home. The spouse can sign for them. You do not have to see them. And what will happen here is if you need to get this money into the trust immediately, because the process normally is you write the plan, you get the policy issued, and then 45 days after that, they put the plan into the trust. With this, you can waive that 45-day period and have that money put in immediately if you're trying to qualify for Medicaid. Now, presenting to your clients, you know, this is just like anything else, and I talk about this a lot. You know, my first annuity sale I ever made was $25,000, and I was scared to death the day I made it. I remember it was 1993 in Marion, Ohio, and I couldn't believe I sold it. But the thing was, I'm not even positive I understood it completely. I understood it enough to sell it, but over time, I now could talk to you intelligently backwards and forwards about annuities, and the same will be with this program. You need to learn it, and then you need to present it. And what we find to be the best way to present it to clients is, number one, the annual review. If you don't do annual reviews with your client, this is a great reason to go out and start getting in the habit of doing it, because you will write a lot of these plans. And the reason I say that is you're going to ask them a simple question. Have you prepaid your funeral? If they tell you no, then you're going to be able to talk to them about the estate or the funeral trust. And if they tell you yes, then you can talk to them about, is there any additional money they'd like to know that's protected from a long-term care stay that they'd like to give to a grandchild or a charity, and you could use the estate planning trust. Remember, your clients are more apt to be the first ones to do business with you because they trust you and they know you've provided them good advice in the past. So when we present the funeral trust, we're going to stress that benefit of planning ahead. We're going to explain to them it can be used with any funeral home, and 1035 exchanges on existing life insurance. We do a lot of business in this area because most of your clients do not understand if they have an old paid-up life insurance policy, and let's say their cash value is $10,000 and their death benefit is $11,000. They don't understand that they don't get both of those numbers. They get the bigger number, the $11,000. So what we'll do is we'll explain to them it's better to 1035 that $10,000 and get it protected and give up the extra $1,000 of death benefit rather than let it lay there and be subject to a spend down at a nursing home. And in the training session, I go a lot more into detail with that, and it's a really, really good way to pick up some extra funds while you're out there. And then again, we all know one thing: everything can be wonderful, but you got to close the sale. You got to assure that client of the peace of mind of, they've planned ahead and they've got that portion off the table, which our clients tell us they feel good about. So where do you find the money? I talked to you a little bit about old life insurance policies. I gave you an example of the client we just worked with that had the CD. Maybe you're an annuity producer and you wrote annuities and you got paid on it. Now that money's just laying there and you know it's going to be going to the family, that the client isn't using the money. You can do a 10% penalty-free withdrawal and get that money out of there. Will they have to pay tax on the first money that comes out of the annuity? Yes, but in the training session, I'll walk you right through how we breeze right through that, showing the client that they're really not buying anything additional. They're moving money from their left pocket to their right pocket and getting it protected. And then again, there's obviously the other places where you would find the money. Now, the thing is, your clients already have the funding. It's not new money we're talking about. It's getting them to reposition it into a place that it's protected. So National Guardian Life does a really nice job with their marketing brochures. The two that we use are the two that are flanking that Understanding Medicaid brochure. So we use the Estate Planning Trust and the Funeral Expense Trust. I will tell you, I've made several sales by leaving the funeral, explaining the product, and then if the client's not ready to take action, leaving them that brochure and following right back up with them. It's that simple, and the brochure's that simple to understand. They will also personalize these for your company and your business, or if you're just an individual out there, producer, they'll do that for you as well. So again, NGL's been in business a long time. I will tell you, they run a very good organization. If you need any help at all, they have a direct agent line to the point you could be sitting in the home with a client and call them right from there and get any answers that you would need on the product that you're working on or the case you're working on. By the numbers, they've got some pretty big asset base, $2.9 billion. They're A- excellent by AM Best, so everything that you need that your clients are looking for as far as strength of an insurance company, they certainly fall into that category. When you look at this next picture we have of this website, actually the one that you will go to is called myNGLIC.com when you become licensed. And it has so much information on there for you, from brochures to PowerPoint presentations that you can use in front of a client, to your state limits, everything you could possibly use, pulling applications, anything you need there. They have a full-service website available to you. So I talk about this product a lot, and I do get excited about it because I think it's a great opportunity. And the thing I love about it is all your clients need it and are thinking about it. And I'll tell our clients, when I sit down with them, I'll say, look, we've done an annuity, maybe we've done an income rider on it, maybe they've bought long-term care insurance, but we'll always tell them that we don't know if they'll need income. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. That's what we build it for. Will they go in a nursing home? We don't know, but we know they're going to pass away. And they need to get their affairs in order, and this is an excellent opportunity for you to help them do that. And it's a great income opportunity. I'll show you here in a couple slides what it could mean to your bottom line. The trusts are free, so there's no fees, and there's probably no other professionals advising your clients on this. I will tell you guys, I've been doing this a long time in Ohio. I've never once ran into any one of the people we've written business on that have told me someone else has spoke with them about this. The funds are portable. Like I explained earlier, we talked a little bit about the company. It provides peace of mind for your clients, and again, the paperwork is absolutely beautiful. And the bottom line is, if you don't do it, someone else will. They may end up going into a funeral home to do this planning when you could actually put the plan in place for them. And I will tell you one other thing you'll love about the company. If you write an application on Monday and they receive it on Tuesday or Wednesday, by Thursday or Friday, your commissions are in your account. So we'll talk about the compensation. If you had just 2 couples a month that benefited from this planning tool, you'd add $40,000 to your annual bottom line. So that's assuming you only did $10,000 of premium on those couples. You know, in 10 months, you'd make yourself an extra $40,000, and you take a couple months off to do whatever it is you love to do. But some of the biggest challenges we find as we license agents with this program, I'll go here, Mark, first. You can go back a second. So here's an idea of the compensation schedule. I show this on a growth rate of 2%. So just concentrate on the upper left-hand box, which says 0 to 60,000 face amount, and just go down to a 61 to 65-year-old. Standard issue, the commission is 14.41%. So if you picked up two $10,000 plans on a couple, you're making $3,000 in commission. Even if they're a guaranteed issue, they're 9.19%. Now, if you compare that against commissions in the annuity market today, I think you can see where this could quickly add up and put some more money into your bottom line. So some of the biggest challenges, obviously, like I talked about earlier when I first sold annuities, is getting comfortable with the concept. Remember, your clients think it's a great idea. The study shows it. But you got to learn how to present it, stress those benefits of pre-planning, and like I tell the guys that work for me, just keep it on the top of your mind every day. It's a real simple question. Have you pre-planned your funeral? That's all you really need to know. That question will open up a lot of doors for you. So we can go to the next one, Mark. So this is a guide for beneficiaries. I developed this for us to do our annual reviews, and we had some pretty outstanding successes with us on it. And I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I'll give you an idea of what they look like. By implementing this review guide, we picked up about an extra $1.5 million in annuity premium. We wrote close to a couple $100,000 in single premium life and a couple $100,000 in National Guardian's program as well. The form that we use is basically for collecting the data, figuring out what's going on with them. You know, again, I just talked to you about our successes, and again, repetition is the best thing in anything. So if you keep doing it over and over again, you know, even if you set a goal that I'm going to make $10,000 extra this year with National Guardian Life, you'll find that you'll make more, because once you become comfortable and you hit that 10,000, you'll blow right through that. So on the guide for beneficiaries, this is what it looks like once you become licensed with National Guardian Life. IAMS will make this available to you if you want to use it. Basically on ours, it looks just like that. Except it has our company name on it and our slogan. The reason we did this is we wanted to make sure that the beneficiaries call us when someone passes away, that they don't call the broker, they don't call the bank, because you, as you well know, or if you don't, you should, that when someone passes away, if you can get in there, it's a great opportunity to work with other assets that you may not have gotten to work with before. And it certainly worked for us. So here's what the financial organizer looks like. So it's pretty basic. We go in, we do our review. We tell our client we're going to update all of their financial information to make sure we're all on the same page. And even if you think you know everything your client has, you're going to find out when you start doing these that they don't always tell you everything, which will open up more opportunities for you. So that's page 1. On page 2, if you'll look at question number 8 there, we have it right on there. Have you prepaid your funeral? Yes or no? Now, if they say no, we don't stop there and start talking about National Guardian Life. We go ahead and complete everything, and then, you know, we'll say, hey, we see some areas here we can help you with, and then we'll focus in on that at that time. So if they say that they haven't pre-planned, that's a great opportunity for you. Again, I will tell you that we've been very successful with this. It works, and I'm more than willing for the people who get licensed to help them move this business up for them in their organization. Any questions?
Looks like we do have some that are in here, John. You know what I'm going to do real quick, too, while we're going through the questions? I'm going to put a quick poll out here. As I mentioned earlier, for those that get contracted, we have a special presentation. I believe it is 2 weeks from today at 10 a.m. Central. And so if you want to get appointed, just mark yes, and we'll go ahead and get you set up there. But as far as questions, looks like we talked about the commissions already. Let's see, commissions for single pay and other plans. We have already addressed that. I don't see any other questions in here. So folks, if you have some questions, go ahead and put those in there, and we'll get those addressed right away. Of course, John really is very, very knowledgeable, as mentioned, what he's written in the past and qualifying for the company trips. And, he brought this product to us here a few years ago. And so let's take advantage of his time while we've got him here with any questions that you might have. Of course, if something comes to mind after the webinar, you can certainly give us a call here at Insurance Agency Marketing at 800-255-5055. John, I don't know if you want to maybe talk real quick here about in 2 weeks the presentation that you'll be doing, obviously, for those that get appointed.
Sure. Yeah. So what we've done, and again, it's a good training session because I actually use cases that we've worked on, stumbling blocks that we've ran into, and the big basis of the training is to give you an advantage going out to talk about this so that when something comes up, you can go, oh yeah, you know what, John talked about that on the webinar, and this is how I handled that. So we'll talk about 1035 exchanges. We'll talk about how to use the estate planning trust if someone has a favorite charity and they want to make sure that money's going to that favorite charity. And again, there's pretty much, I try to cover everything. It's interactive, so we do have it open for questions, and Mark will ask those questions as we're going along so we can make sure we get them addressed for you. I always tell everybody about this plan, my big goal when I started it was I wanted to cover my office expenses. And then when we started writing the program, we found out quickly that that was pretty easy to do if we just ask everybody the question. So that's what my goal is for people to get licensed, is just to get them up to that point. Maybe they want to cover office expenses to get them motivated and get them out there into that real situation, and then be able to give them our knowledge from all the plans that we've written already.
Okay. Looks like we've got a couple questions that popped up here. Vincent asked, does setting up the funeral trust trigger a Medicaid lookback?
No.
Okay. And Esther asks, is the plan portable to other countries?
To other countries, you know what? That's a great question, Mark, and we probably need to write that down because no one's ever asked us that before. But we can certainly find that out and get that answered for her, and that'd probably be good for us to know. It's a great question.
You bet. You mentioned grandchildren as beneficiary. Is living spouse and her children available to assign as beneficiary?
Yes, anybody can be the beneficiary. Absolutely.
Okay. And let's see. Have you found any states where it is difficult or prohibited to assist people with Medicaid planning?
Well, I'm going to say this on that. I would always recommend that anytime you're talking about that, you have an elder law attorney to do the speaking on that, because I do know that states are, especially now, are really cracking it down on what they call the unauthorized practice of law. So that's nothing you want to get yourself into, that situation. But I certainly think it's okay to say to people, hey, you know what, if you're worried you don't have any protection here, explain to them what happens if they get sick and go into a nursing home, and how this can protect some of that money from being spent in a nursing home situation. You certainly have the ability to do that.
Okay, here's a good question. Let's see, Mike asks, how does this stack up against other final expense policies?
Well, as far as final expense policies are concerned, this one is not going to give you, I'll just use a single premium life. It's not going to give you that big bump up in face amount, but that's not what it's designed for. It's the protection of the funds in the funeral trust, growing at a growth rate that will pay out 100% tax-free. So you really can't compare it against a traditional final expense policy. You're probably going to get more death benefit doing it that way, but you're not going to get the protection of the funds unless you go out and pay an attorney to create an irrevocable trust to put that final expense plan into, and that is not going to be cheap.
Yeah, because the cash value in the final expense policy would force them to pay that down to, what is it, $1,500, I think, is the max they can keep in a permanent contract now, right?
That's correct, and that's of all policies combined. Yes, that is true.
Okay, let's see. What makes your, well, this isn't an annuity, but what makes your annuity different than transferring other annuities to a trust other than the trust is free?
I'm not sure I quite understand the question. Other than the trust being free, and again, we were just talking about penalty-free withdrawals from an annuity to try to start moving some of the money over. If you're talking about putting a regular annuity into an irrevocable trust, then obviously you need an elder law attorney or an attorney to draw that document and to get those funds transferred.
Yep, which, there you go, you're incurring fees. Okay. You know what? I'm not really sure I'm following this. Can you be insurance only? I don't.
Can you be insurance only licensed?
That might be the question. I don't know. It just says, can you be insurance only? Yes. I mean, if you're writing this product, you can just have a life license only, depending, I guess, what your state is. But yeah, you don't have to have a special license for this other than to be appointed to write life insurance.
Correct.
Is setting up the trust subject to the Medicaid lookback?
Well, the trust is already set up, so if you put in, and I'm using the funeral trust because that's the one that's excluded immediately. If you were married, I'll give an example, and your spouse was over in the nursing home, and you've been writing checks out of your checking account, and you can see that at the end of the tunnel here that you're going to run out of money, then you could absolutely buy in Ohio. The client could put $15,000 in a plan for her husband who's in the nursing home. She could put $15,000 into a plan for her, even though she's at home, and that $30,000 would be excluded immediately from the estate and would not be subject to a Medicaid spend down.
Okay, and then George asks, is there an e-application for this?
George, that is a great question because I sat through a presentation with them while I was on their sales conference, and they do have an application called IGO, but it is set up right now for the pre-need side. So the girl I was there with, she actually told me that they are working on one for our side of the fence. So the pre-need has it. They're working to develop one so that we can do it in the field as well.
Excellent. And then George asks again, how quickly do the agents get paid when they write a case?
Well, I'll give you an example. If I have a bigger case, usually I do 2-day mail because I like to track stuff. So I use UPS 2-day, costs me $6. But if I have a big case, like a $100,000 case that we wrote on a teacher over here, I overnighted that. So I wrote the application on Monday. I overnighted it. They got it on Tuesday. It was processed Wednesday, and I was paid on Thursday.
That's pretty fast.
Yeah, submission to commission is important.
Absolutely. So Garner asks I think he's talking about your financial organizers. Can I get a bunch of financial organizers if I set up seminars at various churches to leave the church a little money and protect from Medicaid spend down?
Yes, you can always get that. And those are, once you're licensed, you have access to everything. So the brochures on the website, the information I shared with you, my stuff through IMS. Obviously, it's blank. You have to get your stuff put in it and go to the printer and do what you need to do. But, yeah, you have access to all those tools.
Okay, here's a pretty long question, so we might need to kind of break this up. But you mentioned a 10% penalty-free amount can be 1035'd. Is that?
No.
Yeah.
No, I didn't say. I said they could do a 10% penalty-free withdrawal. they would pay the taxes on that money they take out, and then the balance of that money they would give into whichever trust they needed. And again, I know some people say, oh, the client doesn't want to pay taxes, but it's all in what you say to a person that gets them motivated to do it. So again, in the training seminar, I'll go through how we help you get over that hump of paying the taxes on the money right now.
And then, I think kind of to tie into that with the question is that if, let's say they took $15,000 out of their penalty-free withdrawal, they had $185,000 left in the existing annuity. I think the question is that's still subject to the existing state Medicaid spend down.
Sure.
Let's see. And yeah, the $15,000 would stay in there until death.
Correct.
So
the trusts are irrevocable.
Okay. Good long question there. Just want to make sure that we addressed it. Okay, so then here's another one. Yes, this is recorded, so I can address that. Let's see. Can we get slides from... So yeah, here's what happens is I'll email you the webinar from today. And if you're appointed and you attend the next event, then we will also send you the recording from that. But you have to be appointed with National Guardian Life through IMES in order to get an invitation as well as the recording for the next session, which is in 2 weeks. Okay, and then let's see. George asking about where's the training seminar. That will be in Des Moines. But our next webinar that we're going to be doing where John will talk about his presentation will be you'll get an invitation for that if you're appointed. And so it'll be at 10 a.m. Central Time, and that will be in 2 weeks from today. And let's see. Question is $15,000 per person per household.
Yes.
Yep.
Into the funeral trust if your state limit is that.
Okay, I already addressed the training here. Let's see. Is Michigan the same as Ohio? I believe it's 15,000. I'd have to go back up and look at the slide here, which I could. And the other thing too, Tracy, we can certainly talk. Some of the states, I think Illinois is one of them, that the max amount is based on the county that the client lives in.
In Pennsylvania is that way as well, Mark. For sure, I know that.
Okay. And let's see, can you use qualified funds for this plan?
If you pay the taxes on the qualified funds first and then put them into the plan, because it will not hold IRA or 401k money.
Yeah. And for those of you who marked that you wanted to be appointed, I will email you the contract, so you will have that here yet today. And the number here for Insurance Agency Marketing Services is 800-255-5055. And, again, Julie, what I'll do is I will email you the contract since you were interested in getting appointed. You'll get that from me here yet today. And James asks, John, can the interest rates increase once they put it in the contract?
Well, James, that's a great question, and I will say this to you, that actually they will not increase, and the company, it's not a guaranteed rate, and I learned this early in my career because a client pointed it out when I brought their contract into them, but NGL has never lowered enforced rates on any of their policies that they've issued, and they're a 100-year-old company, so that's the conversation we have with our client is, hey, look, we're getting you 2%. That's what it's going to be. It's not going to get any better. But based on a track record of 100 years, we believe that this is the rate you'll continue to get. And that's about as good a guarantee as you can give somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. John, it looks like you've done a great job here. Here's another question. I'm sorry. Yeah, Esther, if you do the paperless contracting with us, then I believe we can go ahead and get you set up without having to fill out any more documents. So, yeah, we can get that taken care of for you.
And, Mark, can I mention one more thing here before we get off? Just so you know, it's early in the year, and so you know their sales conference next year is in Mexico. And I can tell you that they do a very, very nice job with their sales conferences. So, if you get up and running, I'm pretty sure that you could definitely get qualified by the end of the year, if you just start asking that simple question, have you prepaid your funeral?
Well, and it's funny, I was going to say something real quick too, because there was an agent I spoke to here just 2 weeks ago, told him about the product, and he says, "Oh my goodness, I could sell out of this." And he wrote 3 applications on Friday. So within a 2 week time frame of getting appointed, he's already outright in the product. So, obviously glean what John said, top of mind, every client. Um, Question is, what's the best sweet spot range in dollar savings in the household? For example, 4,000 to 110,000 or 1,000 to 5,000. I don't know if I'm totally following that question, Tracy. John, did that make sense to you?
Well, the only thing that I would take from that is, are you saying what is the sweet spot for the amount they put in the policy? If that's the case, I will tell you now that we're all over the board with them. We max fund them at 15,000. We have people who say, "Hey, I'm just going to be cremated. I just want to put $2,500 away." At the end of the day, it all adds up, and we're providing a service. So if that answers your question, I would tell you that with the funeral trust, you're going to be all over the board up to that 15,000 limit.
And then Tracy asked, I don't know if you want to go ahead and address this again, is what is the target market?
Target market is anyone who's going to pass away. I mean, I don't mean to be funny about that, but it is. If you're in that senior market, then you're in the right spot for it. And that being said, for people who do get licensed and do go through the training with us and that they're licensed through IMES, we are currently, matter of fact, we're getting ready to put them on the street. We're working on a couple lead pieces because that's been one of the big things that's come up for us is, what if I just want to talk to people about this? And so we're test marketing them out of our office. We actually run the lead cards. And when we get that perfected, then the people who are licensed, we're going to make that available to them to be able to do leads in their area.
Okay. And Tracy replied back, John, this is, we asked the question, what's a sweet spot? And you write clients that have hundreds of thousands of dollars in assets with you that are putting money into the funeral trust because they want their funeral taken care of.
Yes, absolutely. And again, we'll talk about that in the training because a lot of people say, well, I have life insurance, and that's great, but life insurance is typically set up to go to your family members. I mean, that it's a process. You got to get a death certificate. You got to get claim forms from the company. You got to file them. It can be a 2 to 4 week process where you're designating that this is the amount of money that's there to take care of my final expenses so that it's handled for your family.
And since it's handled so quickly, and I know from personal experience, being the trustee of my parents when they passed away, it takes a while for that check to come, that life insurance claim check.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So your client could be worth, over $1 million, and they just want their funeral taken care of, make it as simple and easy as possible for the beneficiary or whoever their trustee is. So I don't think there's anybody out there who has too much assets that would be a good prospect for this.
There's not, and I will share this with you too. If you have, I've written some of these cases $100,000, and you see what the commission's on there. So it was a good day at the office, but the reality was this was money that we honed in on that they were absolutely not going to use to live on. That the only way they would use this money is if they got sick and went to a nursing home. Well, if that's what you're talking about, then the estate planning trust is perfect, because you can do up to $100,000 on each spouse and get $200,000. Again, it has to go through the 5-year look-back period, but typically that's not somebody that's sitting on the edge of the nursing home door. The ones we're writing those on, they're healthy, they're happy, they're just looking for the future to make sure their money's protected.
Excellent. John, I was going to say the question box is empty, and just from the poll response on getting contracted, we have a tremendous response there. So obviously you're seeing the need for the contract, the product for your clients as well. And so as I mentioned, I will email the contract out to you, and I will email you the recording. And once we get that contract back from you, we'll send you the invitation for our next event, which is 2 weeks from today. And of course, in the meantime, if you have any questions, if you have a case that you're working on, we can talk you through it. And our number here again is 800-255-5055. John, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your production today to help us with this webinar.
Yes, sir. It's my pleasure.
Absolutely. And for all of you that are out there, thank you so much for joining us here this morning. We'll get this information over to you today. And again, don't hesitate to call if you have any questions or if you have an immediate need we can help with. So have a great rest of the week. We'll talk to you all soon.